Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics They're Bad For You, the name of my YouTube channel. Or if you're watching this on BitChute, the name of my BitChute channel is Comic Freak. Today we're going to be talking about Google Stadia launch review, a technical conceptual disaster. Yeah, we're talking about the disaster that was the Google Stadia. From the beginning, Google Stadia always seemed like a hard sell, a subscription model paired with individual purchased games. Even if you were saving on hardware with its streaming tech, it still feels like quite an investment for either gamers who would need to find it as a better alternative to console or PC, or non-gamers who would have to be convinced to suddenly shell out for games like Assassin's Creed or Red Dead Redemption. After avoiding the core industry of to date, all of this was layered on top of technical questions like the fact that streaming games from dissenters like their Netflix titles has been in proven tech and previous attempts have failed, and in places like the US with fixed ISP data caps, how would those hold up to 420 GB per hour data usage? But on top of all that, there was one central question: would it even work? Yeah, and apparently it doesn't, at least not very well. I have spent the last week discovering that, at least for me and my own Google Stadia setup, the answer to that question is a resounding no. I am genuinely amazed with how shockingly bad Stadia has performed at my home over the course of many sessions. For context, I mostly played Stadia on my review and unit ChomaCast Ultra on my TV, with a few trials on my desktop PC browser connected through wireless. My internet is solid, probably better than most people's, with wireless speed ranges from 200 to 350 Mbps, depending on how the wind blows. Google's own Stadia speed check tool seems to think I am well over the requirement to effectively stream 4K games. Well, let me tell you, something went terribly wrong here. Across all test titles I played, Shadows of the Tomb Raider, Mortal Kombat 11, Destiny 2, GYLT, and Red Dead Redemption 2, I would get a periodic stuttering issues with massive resolution and frame drops. Not all the time, but enough to be noticed frequently and disrupt gameplay, which is what everyone's feared may happen with this kind of tech. The intensity of the game didn't matter. It could be the graphically rich Red Dead or the cartoony GYLT single player or multiplayer. Didn't matter. I could be playing solo or as Lara Croft, or playing Destiny 2's Gambit in a pre-arranged match. The issues were the same. You could have 80% of a session be going fine, but then the last 20% would suddenly lurch you into dropping stuttering territory, and in most games all it takes is one hiccup to make you pay dearly. Don't I know that? I remember a few mistakes I made just because my game glitched up, and mistakes I inevitably made because the game glitched up and I suddenly found myself dead. I fell off ledges in Tomb Raider because of lag. I flat out lost Mortal Kombat fights I would have won otherwise. I died to Destiny enemies I would roast with ease on any other platform. I managed to slog through the entirety of Mortal Kombat 11 campaign, which I genuinely wanted to play as I hadn't yet, and probably at least won a match. I ran into lag issues. Even if it's just for a moment, I can cost you an entire fight in a game like that. On top of that, there are some more general problems as well, like the fact that every single cutscene in Mortal Kombat had a full second of audio lag. This was listed as a known issue in the reviewer's guide, but there was still some dialogue lag in Destiny, Red Dead, and Tomb Raider cutscenes as well. Not as much as Mortal Kombat, but it was there. So Google Stadia basically turned Mortal Kombat 11 into an old kung fu movie where the characters' voices didn't match what the lips were doing. That's just great. A tweet from Paul Tassi. Here's a Mortal Kombat Stadia cutscene recorded on my TV for quality, so you can see the kind of stuttering and sync issues I'm talking about. The other issue with Stadia is that even when it is working normally, it's still just a bit off from how a normal console game would feel. It might just be microseconds we're talking about, and while I didn't notice it much in Mortal Kombat or Tomb Raider, outside of the huge stuttering moments where it mostly felt just like playing a console game with a Switch Pro controller, I could feel it in Destiny 2 which I have sunk 1,200 hours into on console, and it just didn't feel as tight. It's passable, certainly, but not anything I would voluntarily choose over PS4 or Xbox. The same goes for visuals, where resolution is just a little bit worse at times. The HDR, a little less bright and sharp, workable, but worse than the hardware-based alternatives. But obviously, all of this pales in the face of the truly horrific lag and stuttering I experienced at Stadia's worst moments. The only unequivocal positive I can say about Stadia is that it has significantly reduced load times over its console equivalents, even past what my SSD modded PS4 is capable of, so hooray. I am not even springing this on Google as some sort of surprise thrashing of Stadia. After these issues persisted across multiple sessions, I contacted them to try and help me troubleshoot it, as I was amazed at how bad it was getting. They recommended I knock my performance setting down to balanced instead of 4K, which is what the Stadia Pro subscription is paying to access. That did not help, nor did it help when went even further down to limited data usage, the bottom tier setting, as even there I still had stuttering. I reported that back, and they said it was unusual and they were investigating, and I gave them permission to access my play session data at the time of this writing. That's the last I've heard about it. I've been playing unbalanced since, but with no real improvements. As a result, the only two relative days of stability were on day one and then finally yesterday, the final day of testing, but with 5 very bad days in between. I do not know if these issues are widespread. I can only report what I personally experienced with my own setup, which is on a very solid internet. I will say during the testing phase, I was contracted unprovoked by someone from another major outlet with a review unit who asked me how it was going, and they revealed they were having similar problems and even better internet in a big city, so I have no idea what's going on here. If this is a widespread issue, it absolutely seems like Stadia should not be launching right now, or at the very least not charging money for people to access it. Onlookers have already been saying this, as it's been revealed that there are a lot of missing features at launch and only 22 total games, bumped up from 12 literally last night, but these tech issues, if they're happening to a significant portion of players, would be a disastrous. It's already made me never want to touch Stadia again over any of my other gaming devices, and I haven't even gotten to the other half of why I don't understand the existence of Stadia in the first place. The entire Stadia model is baffling to me. If you could use Stadia as an extension of your current gaming platforms, playing your console games on the go on your laptop or phone or iPad without the downloads or hardware, that would be pretty cool. Stadia is not that. Rather, it is an entirely self-contained ecosystem where you have to repurchase any game you want to play. Borderlands 3 is coming to Stadia in a little while, but why on earth would I ever play it there? I would have to start from scratch as the game, and most games do not have crossover right now. Some do, like Destiny 2, which is being used as a flagship Stadia launch title, and yet as an avid Destiny 2 player, I would only play on Stadia if my console and my PC and laptop spontaneously burst into flames and I had no other choice, and B, Stadia does not share any player population with any other platform, and I would be amazed if that didn't end up creating serious matchmaking or group finding issues after launch. Stadia is also pitching itself as being for non-gamers, and yet I don't understand how the model lends itself to that at all. Despite sounding like a Netflix for games, pay a subscription, get access to a list of games to play whenever, wherever, that isn't how it works. You are still paying full price for new titles outside of a few free exceptions, with a pro subscription like Destiny, which has just put a bunch of its content as free to play anyway. So sure, maybe you're convincing people to play who don't want to spend $300 plus on a home console, and yet you still have to convince them to pay $60 a release in an era of FTP mobile titles. Good luck. All in all, so far, this sounds like a scam, just as bad as those African prince emails that ask people to give them money, but turns out they're all frauds. But this time the fraud is being committed by Google, and that's hilarious. The issues just keep piling up in my mind, like the anemic launch list, which is almost exclusively made up of old games, and when new ones do arrive like Cyberpunk 2077, I am wrecking my brain to come up with a reason I would ever buy the Stadia version instead of a console or PC as an extension of my playtime to multiple devices. Maybe I'll consider it, but it doesn't even do that. On top of all of this, Stadia has no Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo-like exclusives. Only small indie titles like GYLT is fine, but not my thing at all. Giving it a little to separate itself from its competition, despite developing a studio meant to make these sorts of games years from now. Also, Stadia is going up against Microsoft Cloud, which is going to do exactly the sort of things I'm saying, allowing you to play your current Xbox games catalog along with the entirety of the Game Pass offerings on all the same devices as Stadia. Only you keep your progress and purchases within that ecosystem. It's besting Stadia in every way, provided the tech works, which is far from given. As I've seen it, I could envision some perfect world where Stadia wasn't coming out tomorrow, but rather it launches in the fall of 2020 along with the other new consoles. It works absolutely perfectly and is getting every third-party release on day one and a few must-have exclusives to boot. Then I could see the advantage of not having hardware when the experience suddenly costs $400 less than its competition. This is not the reality we live in. Stadia is launching tomorrow with missing features, 24 old or tiny games, and I have just spent the last week doing battle with the tech that seemed determined to ruin every single one of my play sessions. Well, this is Google's fault for releasing an unfinished game system because they thought they could get a jump on their competitors, and this is why they're suffering so much, and most likely why the Stadia will go the way of the dinosaurs. Here, the author of the article just says he's been a Stadia skeptic and that even if it did work perfectly, it would probably still just be a problem. My opinion, I'd say Google has a turkey on its hands, and I've seen other turkeys, but this one looks like it's, well, cooked on release, and that I'm pretty sure no one is going to buy this system, and if they do, they're probably high on drugs and out of their mind. Earlier in the video, I called this a scam by Google, but considering this is an early launch of a game system by Google, by releasing it early but not having it finished or even, well, really working, I'm pretty sure they've completely doomed themselves. If you like this video, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed because YouTube is going around unsubscribing people, so make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you have not subscribed, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics, They're Bad For You. Then go over to BitChute and subscribe to my BitChute channel, Comic Freak. Hit that bell for notifications, hit that like button, and leave some comments down below. And if you could you please share this video, share it on Twitter, and share it on Facebook. Share it anywhere you think it would do the most good because YouTube isn't going around promoting their YouTube creators anymore, and it would really help me if you could please share this video. It's plug-in time again. Keep checking back in future videos for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book Scumdogs. I'm Chris Williams, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.